Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Sorry for my dog in the background. I'd like to introduce us as No Cap Convos. This is our very first meeting. Well, not meeting, but our very first conversation that we're having with guest speakers Kevin Lincoln and Mayor Michael Tubbs. And we're looking forward to hearing what they have to say. And I hope you guys enjoy the event.
What's up, y'all? How y'all doing? Welcome to the first convening of No Cap Conversations. Before I do anything, I need y'all to give some snaps, wave your hands, or do something on behalf of these youth for creating this space. Man, I told them they got more sense than some of these LGs around here. So give it up for the girls. Give it up. Drop some encouragement in the chat. Show them some love because they did this. This was them. So we gonna spirit fingers, thumbs up, clap it up, a couple of snaps. I'm so excited, humbled, and proud of our young adults and our youth who put this together. So y'all make sure that y'all give them some props and hold some space for them in your hearts for being able to do this. I wanted to ground us, but before I do that, I want to go through a couple of the things that we ask. I have to first tell you that the energy and the spirit of this space is one of enlightenment, inspiration, love, respect, and honor. So in order to keep that energy going, and we're extremely serious about that, there's a few things that I'm going to ask that you do. So one is please turn off your camera because we don't want any distractions. We could have done this webinar style, but we thought it would be cool to create community by allowing some faces in this space or allowing you to actually be in this space. So please turn your camera off during the conversation. And the way that you do that is you go to settings and turn off show no participant. Somebody's striking on our screen. No one will be able to unmute during the conversation. Please be respectful in the chat or you will be removed. And do not unmute yourself or you will be removed. One thing that I love about what I've learned from the youth is about honoring one another and respecting one another. So before we go into a moment of silence and the other portion of this grounding, I wanted to give a little context about this space. I met the girls through when we were organizing for the protest, the peaceful protest during George Floyd. And it just stuck to my heart. And then Missy connecting us through a couple of conversations. It's just been an ongoing conversation and it's truly been a blessing to me. So to be able to just mentor them and to help them create this space, like I've learned so much from them. Y'all done already learned something from them already, right? By us being in this space. But I want to give a little context about no cap. No cap. The expression no cap is a slang meaning for no lie or for keeping it real, or no boundaries and no limits. No cap combos. This is from their perspective. Is new. It's a new place where you can be free to say what you need and to learn what you need. To have an environment where you know that it is no judgment zone. The goal of the NCC youth team is to ensure that we set the tone of clarity, understanding, and accountability from the leadership in our community. No cap combos is where we can get info straight from the bird's mouth or the horse's mouth, depending on what generation you're from. NCC is bold, beautiful, becoming, and the evolution of how we wish to show up in our community for one another. So can I get a snap on that or something? A hey, a wave. So moving on. So at this moment in time, I really want you to join me in what I call the power of the pause. So I want to invite you to really just ground yourselves with about 30 seconds of quiet time. And also during this time, we're going to hold space for individuals who have lost their lives to COVID and also to police violence and police murder and brutality. These are two things that literally are where we are fighting against at one time. And so I want you guys to join me in a moment of silence to hold space for our loved ones, for our community, and to also bring yourself present for this very amazingly dope conversation that we are about to have. Thank you. All right.
Awesome,
See y'all soon.
awesome. Thank you so much, Tashante, for your guidance, your leadership, and your encouragement. It means a lot to us. Awesome. Lele?
Hello, everyone. My name is Alaysia Townsell. I'm a rising now a second year at UCLA studying public affairs. And I'm 19 years old, and my favorite cereal is Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Mistique Davis. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am 19 years old. I currently attend Fresno State. I'm going to school to become a physical therapist for the NFL. Exercise science is my major, to be specific. And my favorite cereal is the one and only, the best cereal of them all, the best milk of them all, Honey Smacks.
Hi, everyone. My name's Angela. My name is Angela Estrada. I go by, my pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm 19 and I'm a second year at UCLA. I'm a biology major with a minor in labor and workforce studies. And my favorite cereal is Fruit Loops.
Period. Now for our special guest.
Hey, how y'all doing? My name is Aaron Chapman. I am an academic mentor with Improve Your Tomorrow and a community organizer to some degree. I'm figuring this thing out still. And my favorite cereal, as y'all can see, is Fruit Loops.
Period.
Throw the hoops for the loops.
Oopsie. There you go. Layla?
How to vote. Election day is November 3rd, and you have to be 18 years old to vote.
Wrong side. We're on Who Are We?
I already went.
We're on Who Are We? We are Stockton leaders who created a platform for important open dialogue, and we collectively make up No Cap Conversation. So a lot of people have been asking us and on our social medias and just texting us, like, what does no cap mean? And no cap means like we're serious. We're not, it's not time to sugarcoat anything, right? We come as we are. We dress professionally, right? But we come to you just as regular people. And like everybody who's on here, that's expected of you guys. We're here to make mistakes. We're here to learn. We're here to have an open mind. And that's what No Cap is about. We're creating an environment where we can just learn and be open. We strive to engage in conversation, always ask why, always be respectful. That's just the number one goal, and inspire others to take action. And yeah.
The goals for this evening are to have a no-cap, honest conversation, to give candidates an equal opportunity to discuss issues of the community, to inform about census and voting, and most important, to learn. How to vote. Election day is on November 3rd, and you have to be 18 years or older to vote. For those who are 16 and 17, you can pre-register and you'll automatically be registered once you turn 18. You can vote via the link. To register to vote, pre-register, and check registration info. For those who want to change their political party, you go to this website and you can go through the processes of doing that there. Last day to register to vote is October 19th. You can register the day of if you're in person, but you cannot vote on local matters. Just so you guys know, we're gonna post this on Facebook so you guys can have the links and everything to go to. How do you vote in COVID? When voting by mail, you can request to do so via the link. The ballot has to be sent out a week before the elections or dropped off at the ballot drop-off locations by 8 p.m. Polling places have not been released yet. The best way to secure your vote is to vote really early. Ballots will be mailed out October 5th. Resources: California Secretary of State Election Information via the website. Check the status for your registration. If you're registered to vote, where, what party, your contact information, etc. There's a new online tool for tracking your ballot via the link. California poll worker information and application, also in a link. And like I said, we'll post all this information on our No Cap Convos page on Facebook, so you guys have access.
And now the census. Oh my goodness, the census is so important. The deadline is September 30th. Everyone here hopefully has filled out the census, but for those who don't know, what is the census? The census is something like, it's like a tally of everyone who lives in the United States, and it helps allocate money to things that we need. So schools, roads, banks. If your town just needs more resources, this is a perfect way to do so. It also allows us to get more seats in the House of Representatives. It's also, this is like so important because this year they allowed people to represent where they're from. So if you're from Zimbabwe, like Samoa, like all those different places, and you're just tired of putting like African American or like Pacific Islander, you can really be specific on where you're from. The census is available in 12 different languages, and some like things that they don't ask, and people often think they do ask on the census, they do not ask for citizenship. So if you don't have papers or you're just worried about that, the people, nobody's gonna come knocking on your door looking for you, nothing at all. So you're okay. Everybody should and needs to fill out the census because that allows us to get more money for the towns that we live in. So count where you live the most. So I know some people might live in different places, they travel a lot. So you want to document or take the census wherever, fill out the census wherever you live the most. So if you live most of the time with your parents will fill out the census for you. If you just had a kid, I believe it's from April 1st, but you can go ahead and go to the website. We'll put it in the Facebook so you guys can fill it out. You should have got the envelope to fill out your census a while ago, but you know, we're in COVID, so you might have lost it, you know, we're in quarantine, so things happen. But that's okay, because if you just go to the website, you can fill it out and they'll give you instructions on how to either locate your envelope or just, you don't have to really need the envelope to fill out the census. What if I live in a group home, shelter, RV, etc.? So if you live in a group home, you will be counted. If you live in an RV, somebody should be coming around in your neighborhood, doing door-to-door things in that nature. If there isn't anybody who came to count you or anything in that nature, you can go ahead and go to the website and then have somebody request somebody to come to you. If you live in a shelter, same thing. But they take the census, I believe, on April 1st. So after April 1st, wherever you were, April 1st was where they would count you. So yes, and all that information will be on Facebook as well. And now, who are the lovely, lovely candidates? So we have Michael Tubbs, he, him. Mr. Mayor Tubbs, would you like to tell us your favorite cereal?
My favorite cereal has to be Fruity Pebbles.
Okay.
That's not even a question. That's not a debate. Like, Fruity Pebbles is really the best cereal.
Okay. All right. And also we have the wonderful, lovely Mr. Kevin Lincoln, he, him. Mr. Kevin Lincoln, would you love to tell us your favorite cereal?
Absolutely. My favorite cereal is inspired by Tony the Tiger, Frosted Flakes.
Yes. Interesting. Beautiful. Okay. Awesome.
Mayor Michael Tubbs is a Stockton's native and Stanford graduate who has been of Stockton since 2016 and previously served as a council member representing District 6 under his leadership. Under his leadership, Stockton has rebounded from bankruptcy and has been named an All-American city twice, is the second most fiscally healthy city in California, led the state in 2019 in the decline of officers involved in shootings, and has seen a 40% reduction in homicide. Mayor Tubbs implemented the nation's first guaranteed income program, SEED, which is now being emulated by 25 cities across the country. Mayor Tubbs has also raised over $20 million to create the Stockton Scholars Program, a scholarship program that supports Stockton students in attending trade school, community college, or four-year colleges and universities.
Born in Stockton, Kevin Lincoln was raised in an Army family and was inspired to serve others. Kevin joined the United States Marine Corps in 2001 and was later recruited by the White House Military Office, assigned to Marine One, where he would serve President George W. Bush. Following his service in the military, Kevin worked for one of the nation's top private security companies in the Silicon Valley, then later would serve his community as the executive administrative pastor of his local church. Currently, Kevin is a director of operations of a Stockton nonprofit focusing on poverty alleviation and food insecurity. Kevin is 39 years old, has been married to his wife Bonnie for 18 years, and they have 2 wonderful children.
Awesome. So now we're going to get into the protocols. So this is how it's going to be ran. So candidates will be asked a question from me, myself, Alaysia, Aaron, or Angela, and you'll get 2 minutes to answer the question. And the time starts when you begin to talk. I have a camera. I don't know if you can see at the same time, but I'm fair. You'll hear the timer go off. I'll give you guys verbal warnings of 1 minute, 30 seconds time. And please respect that. So if you guys hear the time, please just finish up your sentence. And then, I don't want to cut off anyone or be disrespectful. So go ahead and finish your sentence. The other candidate will be able to have a 1 minute rebuttal. And then I'll give a 30-second time. And then for 30 seconds, you'll just hear the timer go off for the other rebuttal. But just because you have a rebuttal doesn't mean you need to take it or not take it. It's just there if you need to. Please be respectful to each other when you guys speak. I don't really do speaking over each other. I'm not very fond of that. And I know you guys are both respectful people, so that wouldn't be a problem. For the people taking notes we encourage that. So make sure you guys have a pen, paper, just jot down things that are important to you, because later on we're going to have a opportunity where you guys can send questions to Jada Johnson. If something comes up or you want to ask a question or anything, you won't be able to unmute, but you can send the question there and it'll be read possibly. Other than that, please make sure that the language is also so people of at least a 12th grade level can understand, so that everybody can have this idea of what you're talking about. Okay, so first, we just want to give everybody a good general idea of what a mayor is to you. So, Mr. Mayor Tubbs, would you be able to give a quick 2-sentence synopsis of what a mayor is to you?
The mayor is the public face of the city, whose job is to serve and to make sure there's strategies and plans to address pressing community issues.
Awesome, awesome. And candidate Lincoln, may you do the same as well, please?
Absolutely. The mayor is a servant first, and the mayor has to do 2 very important things before they can effectively lead, and that is, 1 is listen, 2 is learn. You can't learn without listening, and then you can effectively lead. And so the mayor is there to not only to serve, but to lead as well, and be the visionary for the city.
Understood. Thank you. All right, Aaron, take it away.
Aaron, I think you might be on mute.
I'm sorry. Here we go. Technical difficulty. I wasn't looking. I was trying to read. There's an old African proverb that states, the child who isn't embraced by the village will burn it down till they feel its warmth. This is what the underrepresented youth feel about Stockton. So how do you guys, we can ask Mayor Tubbs first, and then you, candidate Lincoln, how do you guys feel that you can help the underrepresented youth of the city of Stockton feel that warmth? And what programs would you support to make sure that they feel that warmth or even create?
Well, thank you for that question, Aaron. I think it's an apt one. As a child who was born and raised in Stockton, I felt the same sentiments. And I think if nothing else, over the past 3.5 years, we've seen a consistent focus on behalf of the mayor to make sure that youth are a priority. You can look at the fact that we're opening the first library in North Stockton in a couple of years, thanks to Measure M, a ballot measure I campaigned for and ensured its passage. You can look at the Stockton Scholars Program, which is a $20+ million investment to ensure that every young person, whether they go to a trade school, community college, or four-year school, understands that the city isn't just going to tell them to work hard and do well, but it's going to make sure there's a real investment in them in their futures. You can look at sort of the Stockton Service Corps, which I know you're a part of, which is an initiative I created with the governor to allow 100 young people to get jobs working with young people in the community to show that there is a better way. Just this afternoon, I left the meeting with the school district around applying for a state grant for a childhood savings account so that every young person who's born in the city is born with an investment in their future by way of a childhood savings account. So absolutely, Stockton's a very young city. 1/3 of our population is under 18. And that's why from my summer internship programs to scholarship programs to AmeriCorps programs, investing in youth has been the focus because it's a superior growth strategy for the city and an understanding that the youth of our city, as evidenced by this forum tonight, aren't just the leaders of tomorrow. They're leading today, leading protests around police brutality, challenging our school districts, which I agree with, that we need more counselors on campus than law enforcement officers. So I think it's wise for the city to continue investing in young people and making sure they recognize the city knows we're not perfect, but we're doing everything we can to give them the opportunity so that they could come back and serve and help the city continue to make progress.
Are you completed, Mr. Mayor Tubbs? Yes. Okay. Now, candidate Lincoln, you would you like to take your 1-minute rebuttal, or do you refrain?
I'll take it. Can you repeat the question?
So the question was, what programs do you plan to support or help create to continue to activate the youth throughout our city? As the sentiment of many of our youth is burn it down because it does not support us.
Yeah, it's absolutely critical that the youth of today, that they have a seat at the table and that their voice is heard. And that's why, I'm so proud of each and every one of you for hosting this forum, the first debate, for this general election. It shows, the strength of the young people in our community and the type of influence and how effective they can be, when they exercise their voice. And so the things that I want to do when it comes to, giving the youth a seat at the table is, we need to make sure that, the youth have an active role in our local city government as well, that they have direct access, to the mayor's office, and that they have opportunities at each school and within each school district in our city, to exercise, their voice. We need to have more opportunities for our youth as well, workforce programs for our youth, so that we could teach them the things early on so that they can sustain growth and sustain, create a better future for themselves.
Awesome. And then Mayor Tubbs, would you like to get your 30 seconds?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that for me, Mistique?
Would you like to get 30 seconds for each question? You're going to be offered a rebuttal and then a comment to the rebuttal. But I guess since you guys both have the same question, I don't know how you feel about that.
I would just say, I think, Aaron, the question asked for programs. So in addition to child savings accounts, in addition to making sure that Measure M money is spent on creating more recreation centers, we just received a $7 million grant from the state for McKinley Park. So ensuring that youth have safe spaces to play is also an important program. Van Buskirk formerly Van Buskirk Golf Course, is 120 acres that I'm working now with the city and the community to figure out what to do for our young people. So again, I think it's easy to talk about how important youth are, but I think it's another thing to have a track record, but also kind of vision for what actual programs are needed to help youth feel supported in our city.
Mistique, can I ask a kind of a continuation question? And this is one that's very specific to Mayor Tubbs.
You have to allow candidate Lincoln to have his full 2 minutes to respond to the question, please.
Understood.
Thank you so much. Let me start your timer, candidate Lincoln, and you can start whenever you're ready.
So is this a new question?
So it's the same question. You weren't allowed the time to answer the question in 2 minutes. You were only able to answer it in the 1 minute rebuttal time, not the full 2 minutes. So if you would like to take your 2 minutes, that'll be fine.
Okay, I thought that's how the structure was. It was first person answers the question, then you get a 1 minute rebuttal. But are we changing the format now?
Well, it's the same thing. You guys both are answering the question, so you both have to get the same amount of time. It wouldn't be fair if Mayor Tubbs would get 2 minutes and you would only get 1 minute. Since you guys are both asked the same question.
Got it. We can move on to the next question.
Awesome. Next question.
Yeah. Mayor Tubbs, so you have been on the California Victim Compensation Board. How are you going to support victims of police brutality when a bill was just passed stating that they cannot receive victim compensation?
Well, again, thank you for the question. I was appointed by the governor to the Victim Compensation Board. I was recently appointed to the Post Commission, which is the state licensing and standard setting commission for all law enforcement. So because of that appointment, I had to give up my seat on the Victim Compensation Board. But before I left, I was actually pushing staff and working with a group of DAs, including our DA and the San Francisco DA, on changing the law so that victims of police brutality are eligible for victim compensation services. There's a documented record on that. There's actually a meeting where I put it on the agenda and have folks speak in favor of that. In addition to my role in the Victim Compensation Board, I was also in charge of funding for trauma recovery centers. And Stockton at Fathers and Families of San Joaquin has a trauma recovery center. It is a community-based alternative to mental health where folks can go in to their local trusted nonprofit and get the healing services they need to deal with the trauma that often comes with violence, whether it's from neighborhood violence or police violence or just frankly the violence of poverty. So in that role, I was able to make sure that Stockton's Recovery Center, but also other recovery centers throughout the state received the funding that they needed. And I would also say, if you look at just letters of support for every bill around police reform in the last 2 years, you'll find one mayor on all the bills saying we need to do that. And that's Mayor Tubbs, with an understanding that our law enforcement has a very difficult job. But at the same time, we have to make sure that there's policies and procedures in place to hold folks accountable and let the community feel safe by those who are sworn to protect and serve.
30 seconds.
I'm done.
Awesome. Candidate Lincoln, would you like a 1 minute rebuttal?
Well, when it comes to healing and trauma, we need to make sure that we're focusing on the root cause of that trauma and that the type of healing that people need, especially when it comes to our young people, because our young people they're not in control they don't have control over the environment that they find themselves in. And so there are various adverse childhood experiences that our young people are dealing with that are impacting them not only mentally, but emotionally and physically as well. And so we have to teach our young people how to deal with those certain ACEs in their lives so that they can navigate through various situations. And when we look at a young person that maybe gets in trouble, there's a reason why he or she made the decision that they made. And so we can't look at the issue on the surface, the problem, but we have to look deeper into that individual and see how we can help them navigate through so that they can eventually be positioned for success later on in life.
Awesome. Mayor Tubbs, would you like to have your 30-second rebuttal?
Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Mr. Lincoln, what's your thought on the CAVCB decision to not support victims of police brutality, and what is your plan to combat it?
So I get the same question. That's how it works?
No, it's not.
No, it's different.
So repeat the question again. I'm sorry.
What's your thought on the California Victim Compensation Board's decision to not support victims of police brutality, and what is your plan to combat it?
Yeah, that's to be honest with you, I don't have we can move on to the next question because I don't have an answer for that.
Awesome.
Okay, this next question is for both Mayor Tubbs and Kevin Lincoln. Recently, there was bill there in the state of California that the victims of Puvit, how do you feel with the California Victim Compensation Board not recognizing victims of police brutality?
Wrong question. It's my turn.
No, that's the question for both of them, for healing and trauma.
We're on the next slide, Lele. We're on homelessness. Okay. Candidate Lincoln, what is your plan to get homeless youth off the streets, and how might it be more effective than the current mayor already has in place?
Yeah, so to get homeless youth off the streets, we need to make sure that we have the shelter capacity, low barrier shelter capacity for our homeless. We not only have homeless youth on the streets, but we have homeless families on the streets. And there's some great organizations in our community who have bed space for our homeless youth, who have safe places for them to come to, where they can receive, they can study, they could take showers, they could wash their clothes and things of that nature. So we need to make sure that we're going out there, that our teams through the county, through the nonprofit organizations are going out there and reaching those homeless youth and giving them education and directing them to the resources that are needed. And we also need to make sure that with these low barrier shelters and this additional bed capacity, that we also make sure that they're that the homeless youth are, let me back up. Our homeless youth, we can't afford to have homeless youth, on our streets. We need to make sure that we go out there, that we reach them, and that we have the means necessary, to help them, get back on their feet and get connected with family. There's various reasons why homeless youth can be on the street. Could be, they're running away. Could be that there's situations that are happening at the home, beyond their control. But we need to make sure that we're targeting, that we're addressing them, and that we're getting them the support that they need.
Awesome. Mayor Tubbs?
Yeah, well, I think part of the interesting thing about homelessness is that we have to be intersectional in how we think about solutions. And when we're talking about homeless youth, we're talking primarily about LGBTQ youth, who are the more likely and disproportionately homeless, and also most likely and disproportionately to be incarcerated. And that takes kind of being culturally sensitive and relevant with solutions. So in addition to what Mr. Lincoln mentioned in terms of expanding shelter capacity, which we have, in terms of the 65-page strategic plan that the city led on, that the county agreed to, that the continuum of care agreed to, that we all agreed to, is also addressing the root cause of homelessness among youth, and it's hatred and homophobia. So doing our part to educate parents and community members about how to support a young person who may identify as a different gender, who may have same-sex attraction, in a way that they're not kicked out, and also making sure we support our youth shelters who provide safe spaces for these young people. And that's why I've spent time at the children's home, and I've made sure that in our COVID response, the city has given them direct allocations so that all have a home.
Awesome. Candidate Lincoln, would you like to get your 30 seconds?
Sure, yeah. So in order to combat, just to take it a step further, in order to combat homeless, we need to be preventative when it comes to, homeless as well. And so we need to make sure that all of our young people, that they know that they're loved and that they're treated equally, and that they're not looked down upon, and that that they're not judged, and that they do have hope for a brighter future, and they can be accepted for who they are right where they are.
Awesome. Thank you. And now, Mayor Tubbs, what resources are provided and programs being programs being created to support homeless population, and making sure they have proper and adequate testing and PPE?
Yeah, well, thank you for the question. In terms of COVID-19, I think we've all been intensely interested in knowing that this has disproportionate impact on the most marginalized, including those who are homeless. And that's why we've been supporting the efforts of our homeless shelters and ensuring they have all the resources they need. So before I was able to get $27 million from the governor and the CARES Act allocation, I raised private funds to support our shelters and our dining facilities so that they had PPE. And so they were able to pay for extra staff time to do the testing at the shelters. Additionally, after lobbying the governor for $27 million for the city of Stockton to deal with COVID-19, I made sure that money was used and prioritized to our homeless shelters so that our shelters, again, have all the PPE they need, all the supplies they need, but also the staffing time and the staffing power to address the COVID-19 crisis. Additionally, today we just had a big announcement from the governor that we're working together to purchase a hotel to the tune of $4 million from the state to actually provide permanent supportive housing. Because I think when we talk about homelessness, the solution is in the name, home. That part of the issue with homelessness is that folks can't afford housing. So folks may have addictions, folks may have substance abuse disorders, and they can be treated more successfully when they're put in housing first. And that's why not just every other city who's been addressing this issue, but national governments across this world have said that housing first is the way to go, that you're not going to get somebody well by giving them medicine in a tent, that you're not going to get someone off drugs by treating them in a tent, that folks need housing so that they're able to get the dignity that comes with shelter and the stability so then they get the services that they need. And I think that's why I've also led on more affordable housing, on eviction moratoriums, on rent increase caps, understanding that we have to prevent homelessness, as was previously stated, by ensuring people don't become homeless in the first place, which means making sure that folks aren't evicted.
Awesome. Candidate Lincoln, I'm sorry.
You can call me Lincoln. I'm used to it in the military.
Oh, awesome. Okay. You have 1 minute rebuttal.
Sure. You know, when I've been out and about in the community and I've been talking to the different agencies and community stakeholders, nonprofit leaders that have been out there, on the ground, meeting with and trying to assist the homeless population and navigate through COVID. The thing about housing is that, the feedback I get is that, we have to address the root cause of homelessness before, they can move into more long-term, mid-term permanent housing, because there's a reason why they're homeless in the first place. And so, because the things that they're dealing with, whether it's mental health or substance abuse, in some cases self-medicating, they can't sustain housing in the first place. And so we have to meet them at the point of their need. And it's all about getting our homeless community to the next step towards taking the next step towards healing. And that is primarily done through the relationships. And there's a lot of leaders in our community who are putting in a lot of hard work, a lot of that work to make that happen.
Awesome. Mayor Tubbs, would you like to respond for 30 seconds?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think this is a really important distinction. So I need everyone to zoom in. When we say housing first, that doesn't mean housing only. It means housing first, meaning that, of course, a house isn't going to solve a substance abuse disorder or a mental illness. But housing first puts people in housing first, so then the services can come to them and meet them where they are. You can't meet people where they are in congregate settings. It's much more difficult. And again, that's why every expert in other nations across this world are saying the same thing.
Awesome.
Okay, so for our next topic, it will be about small businesses. Candidate Lincoln, the first question will be for you. In lieu of COVID, many small businesses are struggling. How do you propose that the city can help them financially?
Yeah, so our small businesses are going through an extremely difficult time right now in the midst of this pandemic and COVID-19. Very similar, to what my family went through when we owned and operated a small business back during the Great Depression. And unfortunately, we lost that small business. And my family lost everything during that situation in that season. And so I understand the difficulties that small businesses are going through right now. They weren't designed, their business models weren't designed to operate at 20%, capacity. And so, the city, we have to do a better job of making sure that, that we're proactive and we're innovative and we're we're really engaging our small business community with solutions similar to what some other cities, have done around us, with blocking off some streets and being very creative, with outside dining and things like that. And there's no doubt in my mind that small businesses, they want the health and safety and well-being of their patrons is at the utmost priority to them, right? And so we need to make sure that we're being creative in how to open up safely, here in Stockton, and create those safe ways so that our small businesses can bring in revenue, because they can't sustain this type of small business environment. My family personally has been impacted as well, right? My wife's been doing hair for over 25 years, and she's been off and on and things like that. And so I felt the struggle, not only back in 2009, 2010, but I'm feeling the struggle. We feel the struggle today as well. And so we just need to make sure that we're engaging the small business community, and that we have those solutions for them moving forward. We got to ease the burden for them as well, right? Even post-COVID.
Awesome. Mayor Tubbs.
Would you mind repeating the question, please?
In lieu of COVID, many small businesses are struggling. How do you propose that the city can help them financially?
Well, thank you for the question. If you look at our COVID-19 response, a lot of it has been centered on small businesses, understanding that no one could foresee this happening, especially with the disastrous federal response. But also, I think we have to pay attention to what was happening locally. At a time when COVID cases were going up, there were people creating websites saying San Joaquin is ready, that we should open up all businesses, that we need to open up now and today, which was not only reckless and irresponsible, but defies all public health and all logic. In terms of what the city's been doing, we've been giving $3,000 grants to small businesses. And we started before we even got CARES Act funding. We started with a budget surplus that we had and said, with this extra money in this budget, let's give it to small businesses so they're able to survive. And through our CARES Act allocation, we've been able to do that again. Additionally, many of the things mentioned before we've done in terms of allowing waivers for businesses to operate outside, street closures when appropriate, et cetera. But the best way to help small businesses is to stop the spread of COVID in our community.
Candidate Lincoln. Would you like to take your 30 seconds?
Sure. So there are already challenges, related to our small businesses prior to COVID, and COVID only enhanced those challenges that we're experiencing through burdensome, regulations and high fees and things like that. And so, not only do we have to help our existing small businesses, but we have to create opportunities as well so that we can create more of an entrepreneurship environment, in our city, and make our city more business friendly for the foreseeable future.
Awesome. Angela.
Okay. So Mayor Tubbs, your question is, COVID can be discouraging to those who want to start up businesses. What can the city of Stockton offer and to make sure that businesses can flourish and stay afloat in this time of uncertainty?
Well, I think first and foremost, we have to understand that COVID is the mitigating factor here. So the best thing the city can do is ensure that we don't have COVID spread, as we've seen in our county. The LA Times just said our county was one of the worst counties in this country for the spread of COVID-19. I was just out with the migrant film workers who had no PPE, no access to testing, et cetera. So the first thing we have to do to help small businesses is to help all of us and ensure that we're doing common sense things, like wearing masks, like not having super spreaded events and COVID parties or COVID events, even if they're to help us in our campaigns, that we have to be very serious about this illness because it's impacting the most marginalized. It's impacting the most vulnerable, particularly in a city that's half pre-diabetic, that has some of the highest rates of asthma in this country, that we have to take this virus very seriously. And that's the only way we'll be able to open up again and allow small businesses the certainty they need. So in addition to actually having a public health response to a public health issue, we have to do what we can to handhold and to be very flexible. And that's why our city staff is working overtime, not just providing grants, but technical assistance, helping people with modifications, helping people find other sources of funding, et cetera. We partnered with a group called Main Street Launch just 3 months ago to not just provide grants to small businesses, but also opportunity for small businesses to learn how to navigate in this COVID time. Just a month ago, I worked with the African American Chamber of Commerce to make sure they had the resources they need, because we know that Black small businesses in particular have been disproportionately impacted by COVID-19. So again, anything in regards to COVID-19 has to start with COVID-19. It takes leadership to say simple things like, no, I don't care about your feelings, we're going to wear masks. That no, you have to wash your hands. That no, you can't have parties because you're tired. Because this is a very serious illness that's having impacts on our livelihoods, but also having impacts on people's lives.
Thank you. Mr. Lincoln.
Absolutely. Yeah, so public health is everybody's responsibility, and so we each and every one of us has to take those measures that are necessary to ensure that not only our own safety and well-being, but the safety of those around us as well in our family. I've been on the ground out throughout this city, over the last several months, working with various organizations that have been educating underserved populations and our migrant workers and things like that, and how to navigate and how to, navigate through, this COVID crisis. And so, particularly our Hispanic community as well, has, been impacted tremendously, by COVID, in our area. And so, in many cases, there's several family members that are living together. So it's education, it's not only educating, but providing those resources, for them, whether it's the proper PPE and education on sanitization, proper sanitization as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And Mayor Tubbs for 30 seconds.
Same question?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, I think, again, it's part of the job of mayor is modeling leadership. So if there's a public health order that says you shouldn't have events or gatherings with people outside your family, even if you need money for your campaign, you shouldn't have events when people aren't wearing masks, where there's mass amount of people, where there's no social distancing, because it confuses the public. So it's hard to educate the public on one hand and then do something different. And particularly with the disease that's so serious, a disease that's deadly, we have to model the behavior we expect of our constituents.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Mayor Michael Tubbs, this first question is for you. The police budget this year was increased despite various motions and protests demanding that these funds be reduced and reallocated. How do you see this helping Stockton?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you look at per capita, Stockton Police Department is one of the most understaffed police departments in this country. If you also look at sort of measure A and B, the taxpayers, my bosses, voted and said we want to increase revenue to pay particularly for more officers on the street, but also for the Office of Violence Prevention. I think given the strides we've seen in the city in terms of declining officer-involved shootings, in terms of reduction in homicides, and including more officers on the street, we're moving in the right direction. But I would also say, I've been also very adamant about the need to rethink policing. And that's why right now we're undergoing an audit to look at our calls for service. I think it's hard to make a motion to reallocate funding without any data. So I said, well, before we do anything, let's look at our calls for service. How many of our calls for service are for things that doesn't have to be police work, and how many are? So I'm looking forward to that data and working with the community to create models like the Cahoots model, where if there's a mental health or a substance abuse or something that does not require a police officer, that we have a social worker or a mental health therapist that goes there. And I think also that's why I've been so adamant about the police can't be answers for everything, which is why in terms of a school district, when all school districts don't have cops on campus, all school districts, even in the city, don't have police departments, it makes no sense to me why Stockton Unified should have as many officers as counselors, or more officers than social workers, or more officers than nurses. It's completely unacceptable, and it's not in the best interest of public safety. So in terms of the city of Stockton, I am working every day for the day where we don't need officers. But that's not where we are today. There's still very serious crimes, sexual assaults, rapes, et cetera, that happen. But in the interim, I've been very clear since I was on city council, since I was 22 years old up there, saying cops can't be our answer for everything. So we need to invest in other things like mental health, like social work, and ensure that our community has the inputs it needs to be successful.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. Mr. Lincoln?
Sure. Well, protecting our students and public safety, and the safety and security of our students is the number one priority. And, we can go back to, the late 80s, with the Cleveland shooting that put, school shootings on the map here in Stockton. Our Stockton Unified School District Police Department, has, been taking tremendous strides and it is an example to many other districts in terms of the types of things and interactions and training that they do to keep our kids safe and to engage and interact with our students. And, our Stockton PD, Chief Jones, has done a great job, when it comes to leading reforms and leading the nation and being an example of what policing should look like today. And, are we where we need to be? 100% no, but we're continuing to make those strides, and head in the right direction. But we also have collaborative courts as well to change the way that people think, so that they could, if they transform their way of thinking, then they could transform their behavior as well.
Thank you. Awesome. Mayor Tubbs, 30 seconds.
Yeah, I would just say I'm troubled by this notion that of all the school districts in this city, which are 4, Stockton Unified is one of the only 2 that have a police department. Why doesn't Lodi Unified have their own police department? Are their kids less safe? Why doesn't Manteca Unified have their own police department? Why do 95% of school districts throughout this country not have their own police departments? It's because cities have police departments and schools don't need cops. They need counselors, social workers, and nurses. And I don't think as an educator, there's even a debate about that. When I was teaching students, I never thought to call 911, but I always wanted to call a social worker or a mental health therapist or someone to come, a case manager. So I think it's completely ridiculous to assert that our kids will be less safe with more counselors as opposed to cops on campus.
Thank you. Awesome.
This next question is for you, Mr. Lincoln. You are endorsed by the Stockton Police Officer Association. What are your views on the current conversation about defunding the police? This is a 2-part question, so that's the first one.
So I don't support defunding the police. That was your question, right? What are my views on defunding the police?
Yeah. Okay, second part. With the SUSD having a contract with Stockton PD of $8 million a year, how do you see that this money is best reallocated now that online learning is now in place?
Well, online learning it's not a long-term solution. This is a temporary solution here. And so, we still have to make sure that we have those resources, allocated to keep our children, protected and keep them safe. Do we need other supportive services for our kids, and our students? Absolutely. There's no question, about that. But there's other ways, that we can ensure that happens, right? And there's other ways that we need to explore to make that happen. But just to say that, we're gonna, we're gonna defund this area to provide these services, we're missing a whole conversation, that needs to and should have taken place, in the middle. And that's more of a collaborative conversation of how, we can really drill down to what the specific needs are, as opposed to just making a blanket statement as far as, defunding, the police.
Mr. Lincoln, do you yield your time, the rest of your time?
Sure.
You have
Sure, yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Mayor Tubbs, would you like to rebuttal for 1 minute?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
Well, I think we're conflating 2 different things. So in terms of defunding the Stockton Police Department is one of the most understaffed in this country. And Stockton Police Department also has a dedicated funding source. So if the community made a choice to defund the Stockton Police Department, they would have to do it at the ballot box, like they made the choice to fund the Stockton Police Department. But on school district police, I think there is literally no debate and a world of difference between me and Mr. Lincoln. Again, we know what students need. They don't need to be locked up. They don't need to be scared. They need social work. They need therapists. They need counselors to help them apply for college. And again, the vast majority of school districts don't have police departments. The majority of school districts in our city don't have police departments. So what are we saying that Stockton Unified kids, where I went to school, are so different that despite Lodi Unified and Manteca Unified, that these kids need cops and not counselors? It's completely unacceptable and not in the best interest of public safety, but also not in the best interest of the future of our community.
Thank you. Mr. Lincoln, would you like to use your 30 seconds?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
So I'll just make it very simple and just be very clear in that is our students need protection, they need cops, and they need counselors and therapists as well. It's not one or the other, they need both.
Do you yield your 15 seconds?
I do.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Okay, so the next topic will be about the youth and Generation Z. So, candidate Lincoln, the first question is for you. In what ways do you feel that Stockton can grow in trying to engage the youth population? And how do we plan on creating spaces for the youth in the future of Stockton?
Yeah, so Gen Z, they're going to be the largest cohorts of consumers, in the United States. And so, even the work that you're doing here and putting this together shows the strength and the type of leadership that Gen Z and the youth of today are going to have as far as, being an influence, in society. So what we need to do as a city is we need to make sure that, we're creating a pipeline, and we're creating more entrepreneur opportunities, for our youth in the next generation. So that they're ready, to be, those leaders in the future. In fact, I'd say the future is now. The future is today, not tomorrow. And you're providing an example, for that. And so we need to also position, our youth and the next generation for more voluntary operations. We know that the youth of today and Gen Z are some of the most active young people that have ever been here, right? I mean, they're the ones that, are moving and shaking, and those are the ones that, in 4, 8, 12 years from now, they're going to be they're the ones going to be the next mayors and leaders, at the local city government level. And so we need to make sure that we provide those opportunities for them now. I have 2 kids, that fall into that youth and Gen Z, bracket. And, there's nothing more that I want for them 8 years from now when they're graduating college is to have those opportunities, one, to want to come back to our beautiful city and have opportunities for them to make a difference and to contribute to our society, whether it's through education, whether it's through public service or just volunteering in the community. And so we need those opportunities from a volunteer standpoint, and we need those opportunities, just for them across the board.
Awesome, awesome. Mayor Tubbs?
Repeat the question, please.
Of course. In what ways do you feel that Stockton can grow in trying to engage the youth population? And how do we plan on creating space for the youth in the future of Stockton?
Yeah, well, I think a big way to do that is sort of making the right investments in them, whether it's from the city or the school district, et cetera. Which I think the previous conversation was key to that. I think it sends a message to young people when they hear their leaders say that I need cops on your campus for your campus to be safe, but not on all campuses, just the campus where the highest rates of poverty are. I think that sends a message to young people when they're saying, no, we want counselors, we want social workers, we want the ability to apply to college. And the response from folks who want to be in leadership and to be their mayor is to say, oh, well, we're gonna keep law enforcement and magically find dollars for the other things that cost money. And I think it's also holding space and allowing young people to lead. I know sometimes this summer, the young folks drove me a little bit crazy with the amount of activism and energy, but I also realized it was important to hold space and allow them to lead because they're the now, and they're also probably going to be here longer than I am. So they should be able to have a say in how, in making the world in terms of how they want to see their society organized.
Thank you. Sorry, candidate Lincoln.
Yeah, so our young people, it's important for them to understand that they could learn at a young age, how important it is to not only have to have both sides, right? It's not, again, it's not one or the other, right? It's not cops and or those other supportive services. Again, it's both of them. We can have both, and it doesn't have to be one or the other.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, Mayor Tubbs, now more than ever, youth voices need to be and are being heard. How will you make sure that Stockton youth's voices are heard and valued when it comes to pressing issues in Stockton?
Yeah, well, let me first start by saying, I was talking to my wife before I got here. I was like, it's crazy because 12, 14 years ago, I was y'all. I got my start in local government as the chair of the Youth Advisory Commission as a 15-year-old, calling meetings with the mayor and council over the teen center and saying the same things I regretfully still hear today, talking about there's nothing to do for teens, mayor, what are you gonna do? And through there, I saw that I could lead, that I could be a mayor, I could be a council member. So I think the first thing is exposure and letting you all know that you don't have to wait till you're 50, 60, although if you want to, that's fine. I ran for my first office when I was a 21-year-old college senior. I organized my campaign from my dorm room, right? So I think it's providing spaces for leadership. I think one of the things I'm incredibly proud of is the robust internship program we have in my office, where every year we take 20 young people, pay them stipends from Bank of America, and give them the opportunity to lead and make policy recommendations. That's why the work of Stockton Scholars is so important, not just the scholarship, but the fellowship that happens afterward that says, no, 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 no. We want you to get educated, but we need you to come back. We need you to serve. We need your time, your talent, your energy. And I think that's kind of what my own path has been. When I left for college, I didn't think I would come back. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to come back and lead and to have seen just the changes that have been made, from the reduction in homicides to being named All-American City, to the city's fiscal health, to Stockton being in the news, not for negative, but for new exciting programs that tackle pressing issues. And that all started because I was exposed as a young person. So one of my joys as mayor is thinking about, what if we did that for every young person in the city? How different will Stockton look in 10, 15, 20 years? And to do so, to make sure you have the supports you need, which aren't cops, but it's counselors, it's therapists, it's opportunities, it's jobs, and it's real world exposure. And the understanding that we believe in you, not to go to jail, but to go to college and to lead, and that we're going to give you the support to do it.
Awesome. Before I give Lincoln his 1 minute rebuttal, I just want to apologize. I don't believe I gave you the 30-second time, so I apologize for that.
My mouth is dry anyway. I'm all right. I talk all day. We're good.
Awesome, awesome. Candidate Lincoln, your 1 minute rebuttal.
Sure. Yeah, there's no doubt, that, we have to not only, continue to invest, in our young people through some of those, initiatives that, the mayor just talked about. And I'm sure that, and I would expect that those would continue on, moving forward for the foreseeable future. But, it's absolutely important that we listen to all the young people, and that they know that, that they have a voice, and that their voice will be heard. It's something that my wife and I work really hard to exercise, with our kids, so that, they have the freedom, to express themselves. They know that, that they're going to be heard, and that they can have a different voice, different thought and opinion, and that opinion in that different thought is going to be heard. It's going to be understood, right? And so we have to make sure that we're listening to the young people, and that we continue to invest in them moving forward.
Right on time. Awesome. Thank you so much. And Mayor Tubbs. Your 30 seconds.
I'm again. It's. I mean, rhetoric is one thing, but it's about values. I think you've heard from both candidates that we value youth and we value leadership, and I think we have to look at track records in terms of what's been done for young people, what's going to be done for young people, and what kind of supports do we think young people need at their schools, and that's kind of all I have to say on this question.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Aaron?
Yes. So, as a young Black man, I have noticed that many of us are overrepresented in spaces in which we should be underrepresented in as young Black men, whether that be in school spaces or just in the public atmosphere, going through the prison system and different things of that nature. So the question is, one, it's a two-part question, and this is not to insult you guys, but do you identify yourself as a Black man? And I'll pause there for you guys to answer individually.
I would say yes.
I've never been anything else, so yes.
All right. Now, secondly, how do you as Black men plan to aid in the uplifting of Black voices, again, as we are overly represented in spaces and categories where we should not be as a population of people?
Who do you want to go first, Aaron?
Brother Lincoln.
To repeat the question, repeat that second question again. Sorry.
How do you as a Black man plan to aid the uplifting of Black voices as we are overly represented in categories and spaces in which we should not be overly represented?
Yeah, by being an example to other Black men, one including, my son, who's going to be 15 years old in December, right? Teaching him how, to navigate different circumstances and different situations. Listen, my father, grew up in Conway, in and out of the system, and, whether choices that he made or choices, being a result of, being around certain situations, right? The main thing is being an example, knowing that, as a young Black man, that, you are ultimately responsible for, your success in life, and that, the cards that you were dealt, you have the ability, and the opportunity to overcome those various, situations, and through mentorship, through allowing others to speak into you, even many of those who walked in the same shoes that you've walked, good, bad, or indifferent, allowing those individuals to speak into your life and being open and receptive, to what others, have to say, so that we can change, the dynamic, of our communities and our families, and we could strengthen our homes, and we can lead our families and move for the foreseeable future, and we can change, generational cycles, that have plagued us for so long. But many times you don't know what you don't know until you allow somebody in to educate you and give you an example and give you an opportunity to succeed. And that's the key word is making sure that the young black men in our community know that they do have opportunities out there, and us providing those for them.
Awesome. How do you, because I know when we first did a question, when you guys both asked, and you guys get the both same question, it was kind of weird, and I wasn't allotting you guys the same time. It was kind of weird. So do you mind if, Mayor Tubb, do you want to rebuttal to this, or do you want to just use your 2-minute time?
I'll answer. Just give me my 2 minutes. That should be enough.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I mean, when?
But I'll start when you start.
Absolutely. First of all, Aaron, thank you for that question. And I think particularly as the first Black mayor in the 150 plus years of the city, that's a question I have to ask myself every day. Because if you look at the data, if you look at the outcomes, to your point, Black people of color in this city, but Black people in particular, don't fare well, whether it's poverty, life expectancy, schooling, etc. And the solutions to those problems isn't just mentorship and inspiration. And a big part of the job of mayor is actual policy, actual laws on the book. And I think if you look at the past 3.5 years, we haven't done everything, but we made good strides with policy and understanding that the outcomes we're seeing aren't acts of God. These are policy decisions. These are structural issues that require structural or policy responses. And that's why I lift up the work of ceasefire and advanced peace, understanding that for the past 28 years, 45% of all of our homicides have been young men of color, despite black men only making up less than 5% of the population. And what we did is put a policy in place where we said, instead of just scaring you straight, we're going to provide you with the opportunities and the stewardship and the mentorship and the resources so that you're able to be successful. And we've seen a 40% reduction in homicide. Just like last month with the NAACP, the Spanos family, and Bank of America, we launched a Juneteenth fund, understanding that economic insecurity also isn't because people are lazy, because people have been locked out of opportunity for so long. And now we have a fund specifically for Black-owned businesses to get the upskills and the funding and the training needed to be successful. If you look at our general plan, which is a boring document, but it's our land use document, that before would have a bunch of liquor stores in neighborhoods where Black folks live, that would have all types of negative environmental toxins where Black folks live. And that has now changed because the job of the mayor is to put policies that reflect an understanding that the outcomes that we see aren't just and they have to be changed. Like government has a role in rectifying those.
Awesome, thank you. Food insecurity. Let me slide over. Okay, awesome. This is going to be a question for both of you as well. Mayor Tubbs, you're going to answer first, please. The question is, what can your role as potential mayor of Stockton, what can you do uniquely in order to combat food insecurity?
I don't have to talk about potential because I am the mayor. I've been the mayor for the past 3.5 years. So I'll share with you what I've done the past 3.5 years. In the 4 years before that, I spent as a council member. We just passed an urban ag ordinance as a city, which allows for community gardens, which allows for people to sell food and produce in their communities, understanding that while we want grocery stores and we'll fight and organize and build for grocery stores, folks need access to fresh produce now. During COVID-19, I had my staff start Stockton Strong. And as part of that, we created the Nourish Stockton program, where we delivered fresh produce to seniors in food deserts using DoorDash. We also supported nonprofits like the nonprofit Kevin Does Amazing Work with Bread of Life and others to do the hard work of ensuring that our folks had access to food during this time. I mentioned our general plan. Again, it's a boring document, but it's our land use constitution. And in that general plan, we put things in place to make it easier for grocery stores to be located in our food deserts. But in addition to that, I've been working for years with liquor stores and young organizers in the California Endowment to provide more fresh produce in the stores we have today while building for what we know is necessary, which is absolutely access to fresh produce in all of our neighborhoods, especially considering we're in the agricultural breadbasket of the world. So food insecurity is an issue. During COVID-19, I've raised at least $500,000 to our food bank to ensure that folks who are in line for food actually have food. We've given money to the Oasis Community Center on the north side of town, and just understanding that it's unacceptable in the agricultural breadbasket of the world for the children of migrant workers to be hungry when their parents spend all day picking our food. And we've been working double time on addressing that issue, particularly during COVID, but absolutely have much more work to do. And I'm looking forward to having another 4 years to do that.
Awesome. Okay, oopsie. Mr. Lincoln, your 2 minutes.
Sure. I applaud, the work that the entire council, has done even more recently when it comes to addressing, food insecurities and fresh produce and things of that nature. And, I look forward to, doing more of that, building upon, that as we move forward. But, food insecurities, they existed before COVID. They, obviously they're existing even more so during COVID. And unfortunately, they're going to exist, post-COVID as well. So we have to, as a community, we have to continue, to come together on many different levels, to meet the food insecurity needs. And we have to, come together through a collaboration and a partnership that's playing out, right now, to address the food insecurities. Like the mayor said, we've been feeding hundreds, and there's many other organizations that are doing that as well in our community to address the food insecurities. But we have to make sure that in this process that, we're building a stronger economy as well. And that, we have better paying jobs and more higher livable wage, jobs, so that, we can not only expand, have a stronger economy through growth and more grocery stores, in underserved communities and things like that, more access to fresh produce and in the food, but, so that we can, grow in that our people have, the means to purchase, what they need to purchase, as well, that it's not only limited, to one particular demographic over the other, but everybody has, the equal opportunity to access, the type of resources and food that they need to provide for their family.
Do you yield your 15 seconds?
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Oopsie. I'm sorry. Let me see. Oh.
Okay. This question will be regarding students. Mayor Tubbs, the question is, there has been a plan to make a Cal State University Stockton in our area. How will you support that effort to continue along with making sure our Stockton students are eligible to apply?
Yeah, well, I've been blessed to have worked closely with our Assembly member, Susan Aikman, in actually leading this process. In fact, we're co-chairs of the committee to bring CSU Stockton. And my first year as mayor, as a member of the governor's transition team, I successfully lobbied for the $2 million in the first governor's budget that create the process by which planning can begin for Cal State University in Stockton. Again, as an educator, as the first one in my family to go to college, as someone who has raised resources to ensure that every kid in our city has the opportunity to go to college if they choose to do so. A CSU Stockton is a game changer for our educational attainment. I think part of the issues we have in Stockton, and you see it oftentimes reflected in social media comments, is that we have, of the top 100 cities, we're number 99 for adults with a 4-year degree or higher, meaning that almost every city in this country has figured it out better than we have. And to me, that is also completely unacceptable. So a CSU Stockton will be absolutely for Stockton students. And that's why I work so closely with school districts to make sure our kids are ready. And that's why I've been adamant that every single school district in this city needs to align their graduation requirements with through A through G requirements so that when a CSU Stockton comes, our kids are ready. Because right now, less than a third of our kids can go to a CSU Stockton straight after high school if it was here tomorrow. So we have work to do. And that's why I'm adamant about the need for counselors, about the need for other support services so that our young people have folks that can go to when they want to figure out how to do higher education. So CSU Stockton is going to be a struggle. It's been something I've been very vocal with, and I'm proud to, again, to be working with our Assembly member to make it a reality sometime in the near future.
You yield your 10 seconds?
No, let me filibuster. No, I'm playing. You can have it.
Awesome. Mr. Lincoln, would you like, I'm sorry. I tried to do an accent and I got distracted. Would you like to do your 2 minutes?
Sure. So absolutely, a CSU Stockton, would be a game changer. It's unfortunate that, right now that, the state, put a hold on moving forward with that, just due to funding, in the current deficit of the state. But, it would be a game changer, but we also need to focus on, like the mayor said, we have to have that focus on making sure that our kids are ready, to take that next level, and that next step, in higher education. And so, one of the things we really have to focus on, fundamental thing, is improving the literacy rate, throughout our city. and so that our kids are prepared, you know, to move into college. Now, we also understand that not every young person is gonna take that next step right out of high school for a higher education, you know, opportunity. And so we also need to make sure, you know, that as a city, you know, we partner, you know, with the county to ensure we have, you know, vocational training opportunities that, you know, as those students are, you know, seeing their guidance counselors in school and getting the help that they need and assistance that they need, that they're also put on a career path as well, you know, and that they know that there's opportunity there outside of, you know, taking that next step to higher education. And so we need to focus on preparing our kids early on, you know, as early as between kindergarten and third grade, to make sure that they're ready. And it's going to take, you know, an entire community to make that happen, right? And because there are limitations in certain kids' households. So, you know, it's going to take a community coming together to help, you know, increase the literacy rate.
Do you yield your 12 seconds?
Yeah, I did.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. Awesome.
This next question is for both of you. We are a city manager heavy city. So in your power and capabilities, Mayor Tubbs as mayor and candidate Lincoln as a potential mayor, how will you collaborate with the city manager to ensure Stockton's best interests? And I'd like to ask that you each give at least 2 examples.
We're gonna go first.
Sorry, I had to. Mayor Tubbs, you can go first.
Yeah, absolutely. I think fundamental to the success of the mayor is your relationship with your city council and your relationship with your city manager. And that's why I'm proud to have the support of council members, 2 of whom don't share the same political party as me, but who we work, and we don't agree all the time, but we do work together to move Stockton forward. In terms of the city manager, I personally recruited our current city manager and asked him to apply. I knew of his work, I knew of his leadership, and I thought he would be a good partner to do all the work necessary to move Stockton forward. If you look at the past 8 months, that partnership is coming to fruition. Just 2 months ago, we announced an Office of Data and Performance Analytics, which would be a tool to hold the city accountable by making all of our data and all of our outcomes for all of our departments very transparent. We've worked closely together on creating the Civilians Review Board, which we have been talked about for 7 years as a city, where now there'll be a mechanism for ensuring our police department continues the reforms that are being made, and that the community has a voice at the table. We've partnered together on our COVID relief efforts, which is why you see so much funding to nonprofits, so much funding to small businesses, and so much creative partnerships. We just recently partnered together on the announcement today, Project Home Key, where we worked together and set staff down and said, we have to write this application extremely fast. But in doing so, was able to bring $4 million to our community to create permanent supportive housing for 40 homeless individuals. So one of the things I'm most excited about as mayor is having the chance to continue to work with a city manager that I helped select, that I didn't inherit from someone else, so we can continue the great progress we've seen just in the past 8 short months.
Do you yield your 20 seconds?
I yield my time, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much.
Go ahead and ask the question again for me. Repeat the question.
Yes, I can. We are a city manager heavy city. So candidate Lincoln, as a potential mayor, how will you collaborate with the city manager to ensure Stockton's best interests? And I'd like to ask that you provide at least 2 examples.
Sure. So it's important to have to take a collaborative approach to leadership, you know, at the city level and regardless of where you're leading. And so, you know, you need to make sure that you have constant communication and regular, frequent communication, you know, with your city manager and with the council, and so that you understand what the expectations are and what the deliverables are. And and it's also important to make sure that you measure progress, you know, along the way. Because, you know, if we don't measure progress along the way, then, you know, we won't make the necessary course adjustments that are needed in order to move, you know, our city forward. Moving our city forward is not going to be based off of, you know, on the shoulders of 1 or 2 individuals. You know, it's on the shoulders of the entire council and us properly representing the constituents, that we were elected, to serve, and building, trust. It's also important to build trust, when it comes to leadership, build trust between the relationship between, myself and the city manager and the other council members, and also, build trust at the county level as well, because Stockton is, how Stockton goes is how the county of San Joaquin, will go. So Stockton should not only be, the anchor of this county, but, it should be the hub of California. And we got to work really closely, with the city manager to ensure that, the things the things are done to create a better quality of life for all Stocktonians.
Do you yield your 20 seconds?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. So thank you guys for answering those questions. Now we're going to head into the community questions. So I'm currently sharing my screen, so I can't see if you guys are writing in the chat. I hope you guys are participating in the chat and just, vibing and chatting positively there. But we're going to now open it up for community questions, and please send all your questions to Jada Johnson. So if you have a question, we're going to give Jada about maybe 3 or so minutes to get all those responses in, and then she's going to send it to us so that we can ask them to the candidates. So these questions are going to be coming straight from you guys. So, type away, if you have a pressing question, please do ask. Please do ask. We're going to put on a song. So let's see. Candidate Lincoln, do you have a favorite song? Like a country song? I don't know. I like country music. So, matter of fact, what's your favorite song? Actually,
go ahead and play whatever you want to play. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, guys. You guys like Hamilton? I don't know. This is too much pressure. Actually,
you should play Beyonce.
Beyonce.
Hold on. Run that Hamilton back though. Run that Hamilton back. That went hard.
I'm so sorry, guys. Okay, Hamilton. You guys don't even know. Please get the questions in fast because, Hamilton, it can go on for.
I'm going to just say that was a brilliant combination of American history and hip hop. Like,
Ooh.
man.
We hope you guys are enjoying this conversation. I just once again got to give props to the youth for doing such an amazing job. Send them some love in the chat, y'all. This is amazing. You guys have done a great job. I just want to let you know.
Right. So this song's pretty long, so we've been sitting here for a while. I will
Definitely long.
Yeah.
But that's an important part of history right there. Y'all better go watch it.
Disney Plus. Let's see. I will pull a question that's from the Zoom. I know some people send in submission questions via Zoom, so let me bring it up. So this question will go to both of you guys. It says, this came in, it says, is Gavin Newsom providing the correct leadership in regards to keeping California citizens safe during the coronavirus pandemic? May we have Kevin Lincoln go first, please? Candidate Lincoln, please. 2 minutes.
Sure. Repeat the question again.
No worries. Is Gavin Newsom providing the correct leadership in regard to keeping California citizens safe during this coronavirus pandemic?
Yeah, so, leading during a time of a crisis is difficult for any leader at any level, right? I think it's important to ensure that there's, consistency, and that, the safety and security of your people, is first and foremost. And so, I feel like there could be, there's more of an opportunity to be more consistent with some of the guidelines and things like that have been coming out, so that, we can find a proper balance when it comes to ensuring public health and safety, and also, reopening up our economy responsibly as well.
Awesome. Do you yield the rest of your time?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. Mayor Tubbs?
Yeah, well, I would, particularly as a mayor during this time, I empathize with just the difficulties of leading at a time of a recession a global health pandemic, and also a national reckoning about race and about really proving that Black Lives Matter in our society. And I think all things considered, Gavin Newsom has not done a perfect job, but he's been doing a very good job. I think the proof is in the pudding, particularly with the care and attention I'm given to Stockton. The governor has made time to come to Stockton at least twice during COVID-19 to meet with the mayor, to meet with small business owners, to hear our concerns, to see those translated into policy. I remember calling the governor and saying the county has CARES Act dollars. The county is not sharing CARES Act dollars. The city of Stockton needs CARES Act dollars. And he gave the city $27 million, which has allowed us to protect our citizens. I remember talking to him about the Latino farm workers who were disproportionately ravaged by COVID-19, and he responded with funding for Stockton and Central Valley. I remember meeting with him about I remember even sharing my frustrations with the fact that I tried to do a mask ordinance in the city based off science, based off data, based off public health, and based off, frankly, common sense. It was able to get that passed, and I had to tell him, like, look, Governor, if you don't do it from the state level, communities like Stockton will be adversely impacted because the political will is not there to do what is necessary. So I appreciate the governor's leadership and partnership, and I'm proud to have his endorsement. I think if you contrast his response to the response of the federal government, where we have 200,000 Americans dead, including over 440 people in this county, because the president has not had a response, has not had a strategy, has not even cared to think about how to protect the people during COVID-19. And I'll end with saying we also partnered together, myself and the governor, to bring drive-through testing here to Stockton. So I think definitely a contrasting leadership, and Gavin Newsom has done a very good job as governor during this time.
Thank you. All right. And then the second question also comes from someone who asked it while registering for the Zoom. It reads, hold on, what's this such small spot? Okay, I'm so sorry, guys. And everyone, I don't want to be. Okay. Do you have a 2020 mayor platform? If not, will you commit to distribute one by the end of this week? Mayor Tubbs, may you go first, please?
Absolutely. I absolutely have a 2020 mayoral platform. You see it every Tuesday at council meetings. So on homelessness, you can refer to our council homelessness strategic plan, which I had a leading role in making sure it was done. That's the platform on homelessness. If you look at our website, I think it's michaeltubbs2020.com. It talks about all the things we want to continue to do around policing, around violence reduction. But I think part of being the incumbent is also standing on your record. And I think on violence reduction, I don't want to course correct. We've seen a 40% reduction in homicides. That's working. That's the platform. Keep doing that, what's working. We know when it comes to fiscal sustainability, we're now the second most fiscally healthy city in the state. Our budgeting practices have been working. We will keep doing that. That's the platform. When we think about investing in our young people, Stockton Scholars and Stockton Service Corps is working. So we're going to continue doing that. In terms of things in the future, I mentioned the childhood savings accounts. I mentioned sort of the partnerships with the state around affordable housing. I mentioned the work we have to do collaboratively around cleaning up the city, but all that stuff is not only on the website, it's on your local news stations, it's on Facebook, it's on Twitter, and now it's on the Zoom. So I appreciate the question, and I appreciate the opportunity to share sort of the vision for continuing the progress we're making and understanding that we're not perfect yet, but we'll continue doing the work to get there.
Awesome. Will you yield your 40 seconds?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Awesome, awesome. Mr. Lincoln.
Yeah, absolutely. So my 2020 platform, you can access it on my website, lincolnforstockton.com. And it's really summed up in three categories: public health, public safety, and public service in unity. Policies could be found, through each one of those categories. But the number one, thing that we have to do in our community is we have to address the homeless crisis that we're facing right now. We have to get to the root cause of homelessness, through substance abuse and mental health challenges that the majority of our homeless population, it's plaguing them. And so we have to get them the navigation services, the wraparound services, that they need. And we have to find that balance where we can give them the services that they need, and we need to do a better job of improving the quality of life for all of Stocktonians, as we move forward. And there's things that we could do that my plan outlines specific details. And you could download my white papers, from my website. Also, public safety is absolutely important. We need to make sure that those public safety departments have the resources that they need to effectively do their job and protect, the families and keep us safe while engaging the community as well and providing more of a productive, society. But as mayor, it would be absolutely important for me, to make sure that I'm constantly engaged with the community and that I'm accessible to the community and that, when they call me, I'm going to answer, right? And I'm going to have opportunities, for them to meet with me and we're going to exchange dialogue and, I'm going to listen, I'm going to understand, I'm going to listen, I'm going to learn, and I'm going to lead all at the same time. And so, again, I'm just thankful for this opportunity and great job, to the team tonight for putting this together and just being the leaders that you are already, and I look forward to working with you.
Perfect timing. I feel like you have a clock yourself because, man, oh my. Oh, okay. Next. All right, in closing, Mr. Lincoln, this is a time for you to give your thank yous. Anything that you want to say, you get 2 minutes. I'll say 2 minutes and 15 seconds just to give a little oomph, So go ahead and take the stage. This is your platform to use and say whatever you need to say to the community.
Sure. Again, I ended.
Wait, sorry. Before we do closing, we actually have 4 other questions that we did want to ask. So apologies for the miscommunication, but before your closing, we did have just 4 more questions. So we're going to ask y'all to just take a deep breath in and take a deep breath out because y'all have been doing this thing for about 2.5 hours now. I lied, I can't do math. This is why I majored in English in college. But I do have 4 more questions, like I said, and some of them might be directed straight to you, and I will let you know, or some of them might be just to the both of you, and I'll designate who gets to go first. So the first question comes from community leader Camille Zapata, and she would like to know, if you were elected to serve as mayor, would you make Stockton a sanctuary city? And that goes to both candidates, and I'll allow Mayor Tubbs to go ahead and kick us off.
Thank you for the question, Camille. So my first month in office was also President Trump's first month in office. And we saw the attacks on immigrants. And I think I was incredibly clear that Stockton is a city of immigrants. 1/3 of our population is foreign born. And our police department are not ICE officers. And we will not collaborate. We will not do research. We are not ICE. We are not doing immigration enforcement. And that's why one of the first things I did as a councilman was put a resolution in support of ensuring that Stockton is a city that recognizes and values the importance of immigrants in our community. Stockton doesn't operate the jail. That's a county function. So we couldn't make the same sort of statements as San Francisco. But in terms of what we control in terms of our police department, we've been very clear. In addition to that, myself and the police chief spent the first 6 months of my first term as mayor meeting with the ICE director, making it very clear that we are not going to be ICE officers. We also, thank you. We also requested of ICE to not wear police when they go to people's doors, so they're making people confused. We also worked with a bunch of community groups to create an immigrant resource guide in the community. And then Jeff Sessions sent me a letter on the eve of my 27th birthday saying that Stockton was at risk for losing funding because of our stance. And myself, the police chief, and the city manager politely responded and say, well, with all due respect, Mr. Sessions, the law is on our side. And we have a job to do. And our job is to keep people safe. And folks can't be safe if they're scared to talk to police because we know we have mixed status families in our community. And that's why I also made sure that Stockton signed on to sue the administration, the Trump administration, about the citizenship question on the census and on the deadline for the census. And luckily, we won both those times. So as a diverse city, Stockton needs a champion that recognizes the diversity. It's not afraid to fight whoever to ensure that all of our community feels safe and protected and supported in their home.
And before we slide into Lincoln, we love knowing, what specific policies have been put in place and what's been going on in Stockton. We do want a clear-cut answer, like, is it going to be a sanctuary city? And that requires a yes or a no answer.
For me?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, it already is. We already did a resolution, January 2017. You can look at that yourself.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mayor Tubbs. Candidate Lincoln?
Yes, that's a resolution in spirit of sanctuary cities. Stockton can't be a sanctuary city. So to be honest with you, I would just have to say no, because it can't be a sanctuary city. My grandfather was, on my mother's side, was a Mexican-American immigrant, migrated to Stockton when he was 16 years old, and, came here, worked for over 30 years at Tilly Lewis Hormel, and retired and got his citizenship the same year that he retired, raised his house, built a family here, in this beautiful city. So Stockton is a very diverse city. It's a city, yeah, indeed, it's a city of immigrants, but at the same time, we need to make sure as well that, we cooperate, with the law as well, and different, agencies, to ensure, the protection, the safety, of all of Stocktonians, including immigrants, that people that immigrate here that do that, legally as well. And so, the straight answer is no, because Stockton, it can't be a sanctuary city. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you.
So this second question, thank you both for answering that very honestly. No cap, so we appreciate it. We also have a question that goes directly to candidate Lincoln. A lot of folks in the chat are wondering, after coming off of a surplus of resources and funding that TUBB has created, we're wondering, if you are elected as mayor, what resources do you have access to? What programs have you already committed to or been a part of that inform you to be mayor of this city, especially after this term that we've existed in with Mayor TUBB?
Yeah, so I'm gonna ask you to repeat. There was a lot to that, so I was trying to just repeat it one more time for me. I'm sorry.
Absolutely, no problem. So we're wondering, what resources, what programs have you been a part of? What informs you to be mayor of a city where you're now coming into a surplus of opportunity and other resources that have already been established? What are you coming and bringing as the mayor?
Yeah, so the resources that the mayor has had over these last 4 years, there are resources that will be there and that will come to our city, whether it's through COVID or whatever the situation is, regardless of who mayor is, and so who the mayor is. So I would expect the same cooperation at the state level. I'd expect the same cooperation at the city and in the county level moving forward. So it's not a matter, who's in the seat, it doesn't matter as long as you have the best interests of the people, first, because, we're doing things and making decisions, that are not only in the best interest of the people talking right now, but for the foreseeable future, as well. So the same access to resources that he has had, anybody who's mayor would have those access to those resources, as well.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know that you'll specifically address what resources you are then coming in with. So you're just planning on having access to the same resources that TUBB has?
So, okay, so let's maybe get a little bit more specific when it comes to resources. What resource in particular? So let's talk about, resources to address homelessness, for example. So, when it comes to that, the way that we bring those resources in is through a public-private nonprofit partnership, right? And so I've already, met with, community stakeholders in the private sector who are ready to make decisions, and provide certain level of capital improvements so that we can do the necessary things that are needed to address homelessness in our community, because that is the number one issue, that is the number one issue in our community. And so, my role right now to prepare me for being mayor is building those community relationships, and building those rapport and having those conversations so that when the time comes, then I can make the ask for the specific needs to help our city move and help our city heal moving forward.
I see a itch in TUBB to reply, and unfortunately we don't have our 30-second 1-minute rebuttal during this time. But I will say, as someone who has been a part of public forums and public service for quite some time, that resources are not readily available and everyone does not come in as a mayor and have the access that everyone else does. And so I just want to put that out there. As a young person who will be voting in this election, I feel like it's important to let my peers know, to let Stockton constituents know that your mayoral candidacy looks very different depending on who you are, and resources are not something that come easy. You have to work very, very hard to get those resources. For the third question, it's for both candidates. Celine Lopez, who is a community leader, wants to know if we do plan on bringing money into Stockton and more businesses and a CSU, how do we plan on preventing gentrification of people of color and other under-resourced folks? And can you define gentrification for those of us who don't necessarily know?
How long do we get?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. This kind of relates to the question, but it's an absolute lie to say the resources that have been brought in would any mayor would get, because they didn't exist before I was there. The money from homelessness, the 27 million from CARES Act came from direct hustle, lobbying, calls, meeting, and coalition building. And those relationships won't be there if I'm not mayor. Let's be very clear. Not to mention the over $60 million of philanthropic funding that was done. And I'm a little bit annoyed in my voice because that doesn't just happen. That takes a lot of work, a lot of time away from my wife and my family to do so. In terms of the question around gentrification is displacement of people as areas improve, meaning rising rents, meaning unaffordability, meaning increased, sometimes in different cities with broken windows policing, increased police protection, presence, et cetera. And one of the things I've been adamant about in Stockton is making Stockton a test case to show that you can improve a community without removing the people from the community in that process, meaning that we can all have nice things. So to do that concretely is a policy issue. And that's why I've been so adamant about more protections for renters, so that there's a cap on rent increases, so that we have just cause eviction. So you can't just be evicted tomorrow for no cause. So that we have more affordable housing in our community. That's why I've been saying we need an inclusionary zoning ordinance, so that when we build nice things, we also build nice affordable housing things, so that we have mixed income communities living together. And I think given the progress that Stockton is making, those concerns are real. And it's going to take a clear-eyed policy solution to put the guardrails in place to allow for growth, allow for development, but to do so in a way that's in the community's best interest. And that's why we've also been working with community groups on co-ops, on buying some of the vacant land. That's why we've been very strategic about leveraging city resources. So we have city land up for proposals now for folks but one of the qualifications is that said proposals have to do no harm to the existing community. And we'll definitely need the community support to keep us focused and not to lose sight on that goal.
Thank you.
We'll go ahead and give candidate Lincoln 2 minutes to answer that same question.
Awesome.
Sure. Yeah, we absolutely need the community support to move forward, and we need to provide those economic opportunities and build a stronger economy so that every area of our community can grow without, having to displace anybody, in those particular areas, but they just continue, they continue to grow and they continue to get stronger. And so, I believe that, from a policy standpoint, we need to make sure that, we're protecting those communities and where those communities are expanding and growing economically, but we're also bringing in, more capital as well, more revenue so that we can do some of those things throughout our city. And so, that's my response to that.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you both. We do have one more question. And before I get into it, I want to thank everyone in the chat for being so incredibly involved. It's really amazing seeing all of your questions, and I hope that y'all continue to reach out to these two candidates. They're completely open for you. I'm speaking for them, but I'm pretty sure they're willing to answer your questions through their emails. The last question is to the both of you as candidates and as Black men and members of our community. We want to know, and this one comes specifically from Coach Mike Lewis, so thanks, Coach. If one of you ends up winning this election, can we expect the other to be in support and to work side by side in public service with each other.
Who would you like to go first?
I'll allow for Mr. Lincoln to go first.
Yeah, so I've said from the very beginning that, you know, the policies, the strategies, the things that, you know, my campaign has been working really hard on, identifying solutions and to address those issues in our community, you know, are accessible to anybody. You know, my goal is to be a part of the solution and to see our city, you know, begin to heal. So, you know, the plans that I've identified, whether it's through homelessness or, you know, crime or economic opportunities, those policies that you can see on, you know, on my website, they're there. You know, I want to fully cooperate, you know, with the city and with the residents of Stockton and our elected officials, because it's not about me. This running for mayor, it's not about me. It's about the people, and it's about doing the right thing for the people. And so, you know, part of that is it's important for me to make sure that, you know, at every level, you know, I set my ego aside and know that, you know, the future of our city, you know, and the healing that's necessary is not going to ride on my shoulders alone. I can't do it alone. There's many community stakeholders and leaders in our city who have been doing a tremendous work on every level in our city, in every level of our community, to help sustain our city. And it's those individuals that, you know, need to have, you know, a seat at the table. Those individuals that their voice need to be heard really clear. And many of them have done what they've done, you know, without appreciation, you know, without, you know, acknowledgement. And so to each and every one of you, I say thank you. And I say that you know, regardless of who you are, what your background is, you know, I'm going to listen to you, and I'm going to be a partner, you know, with you to help move our city forward so that we can see our city experience the type of healing that it needs and improve a better quality of life for all Stocktonians.
Awesome.
Thank you, Candidate Lincoln. We love a humble king. Mayor Tubbs?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say in 2012, when I made the decision to come back to the city of Stockton, it was to serve. I literally could have been anywhere in the world. And I decided that, no, there's so much good work that can happen at home. Why not start at home? I spent 4 years on city council working with a mayor I could not stand, a mayor I ran against for mayor. But still, when it was appropriate, having his back, still when he called me to help him with things, still helping him write policy and stuff, understanding, as Mr. Lincoln said, it's not about a person. It's about sort of the place, right? It's about how do you improve Stockton. So my love, my dedication, my focus on improving Stockton is unwavered and won't change. And I would imagine, particularly given the global pandemic we're in, particularly given the national conversation about race, particularly given the amount of partnerships and resources and plans and strategies already underway, that if Mr. Lincoln was successful, he would need some help in the transition. I'll be more equipped. My staff will make sure that he has all the tools he needs to be successful. But I would also say that with the caveat, I have no intention of losing. So we'll continue to work hard over the next 36 days to make the case that progress is not perfection, but we've done amazing things together as a city. And those things don't just happen. You don't just come in and know whoever's the mayor is going to, that's just not the history of this city. It's ahistorical and it's not true. That leadership does matter. It does matter who's in the seat. It does matter in terms of concrete policies, in terms of a concrete vision, in terms of the concrete experience to actually get the things done. That being a mayor in 2020 is not about talking points. It's not about what fits on a Facebook post. It's about rolling up your sleeves, opening the book, and understanding what it is that you need to do to improve the lives of your citizens and your community.
Awesome.
5 seconds to spare. You love to see it. Thank you both so much for answering those questions. I know it's been a very, very long candidacy. It's been a long mayoricity. That's not a word, but I made it up. And so we really appreciate you all for being here tonight. And moreover, we thank the audience for being here, for being extremely respectful of our ground rules in our chat. I know Mayor Tubbs dropped his information in here. So Candidate Lincoln, if you want to drop your email so that folks know how to get to you, so they know how to answer some of your questions or ask you some questions, we can go ahead and put that there. And we really appreciate you two kings for being here for us. We look forward to having more forums like this and having you in our spaces.
No.
Beautiful.
Mr. Lincoln, would you be so willing to do a closing? If you want to say your thank yous, give a shout out to your people, your dog, your cat, anything.
Yeah, just give a shout out to all of Stockton. Thank you for the love over the last almost 11 months now, and it has been it has been a grind, but that's what Stockton's made up of. It's people who grind and are passionate about their city and want to see effective change in their city. And so just know that leadership on many different levels, it's about influence. It's not about power, it's not about money, it's about influence. And each and every one of you, Mistique, Jada, Alayssia, and everybody else who's helped put this event on, know that you're leaders and that you're influencing our community on many different levels right now. And for that, I applaud you and I thank you for stepping up to the task and taking this head on and providing this opportunity for our community. Stockton, we're going to get through this together. We're going to move our city. We're going to continue to build our city and move our city forward together. And just know that I'm fully committed to this city. Win, lose, or draw, right? I'm fully committed to the future of the city because I have two beautiful kids that in 8 or 9 years, they're going to be graduating college. And if they go off to college, I want them to come home, to our beautiful city. And I want them, like you are doing, I want them to step into your shoes one day. And I want to see you, leading our city and leading our state and leading our nation, as we move forward. And so, I'm here just as much for you to serve you as the feeling is mutual, right? We're here to serve each other and to make the city better. And so, just thank you again for this opportunity.
Awesome sauce.
Okay. And Mayor Tubbs.
Is that my intro music? No. So in 2012, I was a 21-year-old college student who, much like you all, so I appreciate your leadership and I'm excited for what this means for the future of our city and our nation. You guys are starting so young. And decided to run for city council. I had no experience. We had 71 homicides. We had declared bankruptcy. And I was lucky enough to be elected to represent my neighborhood, District 6. Spent 4 years at city council. And during that time, we began to improve. And I was lucky enough to win mayor in 2016. If you look at where we were in 2012 to where we are now, there is no denying the progress we have made together. I mean, to go from bankruptcy, the second most fiscally healthy city in the state, doesn't just magically happen. It takes leadership. To go from 72 homicides to a consistent 40% reduction in homicide, doesn't just happen. It takes work and relationships and influence and leadership. To go to leading the state in declining officer-involved shootings, to being the focal point of a national conversation about basic income, where 25 other cities in this country are trying to follow our lead. That doesn't just happen. And in Stockton, we did that together. And that's why I'm so excited about these next 4 years, particularly with the challenges of COVID-19. Particularly with the conversations about racism in this country. Now, we have to continue to lead. We have to continue doing the work, but it doesn't just happen. It takes someone with the experience, with the skills, with the visions, and with the track record to make it happen. So I'm looking forward to spending 4 more years of doing hard things, of continuing to build housing for homeless individuals, of continuing to improve without gentrifying, and about continuing to improve so that, again, young people don't see Stockton as a city to run from, but a city they can't wait to come back to roll up their sleeves and do the work necessary of making Stockton a beacon to this nation. So to all you all, thank you and have a good night.
Awesome. Yes. I just want to thank you guys. I guess we can all say our thank yous, all of the organizers and people participating. But me specifically, I just wanted to Thank you to the candidates and my team for working so diligently to get this on. I know this is our first event of many that we want to do, and hopefully we created a space where both of you guys felt like you guys were able to represent you guys yourselves equally and fairly. That was the goal. You were felt respected. Everybody in the chat and everybody watching online felt like it was very beneficial for them, and that, you know, it was done within a timely manner, and that they got the most benefit.
Timely.
Sorry.
I'm messing with you.
Awesome. But yeah, you know, you guys are awesome. That was just my closing. I yield my time.
Yes, as Mistique was saying, thank you guys. And specifically, thank you for your openness and transparency when answering the questions. You guys really gave the definition of having a no-cap conversation. I know you guys are busy. Thank you for your time. We've been witnessing all the love in the chat from everyone throughout tonight's event. Thank you all. We do plan to continue having these conversations in the near future. We plan to have this conversation with the city manager, the district attorney, school board members, etc. So make sure you like us on Facebook and stay tuned for updates. Thank you all once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, guys. You guys gave an amazing example of how to hold space and to provide information in a way that is respectful and that is powerful. Thank you to Mayor Tubbs and to candidate Lincoln for joining us. And just for everyone who was respectful to the space. It was really important to us to make sure that this was a respectful space, an example of how we want to move forward as a community, because collaboration over competition, love and light is going to drive out the darkness, and we have to all exist in this space together. So we need to find a way to have these conversations and to seed our people with what they need so that we can be champions on this earth. So thank you. Beautiful job to our young adults. Y'all need to continue to pray for them and sow into them and support their vision. That's it. Good job. Good job.
Aaron, did you want to say something, Mr. King?
Yeah, I want to just say this. Thank you to both our mayoral candidate, Kevin Lincoln, and Mayor Tubbs for coming out for this. Thank you for all the people who came out to watch, to be informed, to have better understanding, to not judge based off pictures, because that conversation is definitely within our community heavy. And all you young queens, Jada, Mistique, I'm about to mess up your name, sis. I'm about to mess up your name.
Alaysia.
Alayssia, thank you. I didn't want to mess it up. So, and Alayssia, thank y'all for holding this space, because it takes y'all. Like, my young brothers, we got to step up, and these sisters are showing us how to step up. So follow their lead if y'all don't do nothing else. That's what I got to say.
Awesome. Good night.
Don't ever forget that behind every good man is an even stronger woman. So,
and with that being said, I'm getting home before my wife killed me.
Peace and love, y'all. Peace and love.
All right. Thank you.